Alright guys, welcome back to part 3 of the socket slop experiment. I've got the Gearwrench 120 XP locking flex head, the Icon G2 locking flex head, the Capri CP90 fixed head, and the Koken 3753N fixed head. We're going to test these all out. I have Icon sockets, Gearwrench sockets, and Capri sockets. Wish I had some Koken sockets, but this is what we're doing today. I've been told that using Gearwrench sockets with the Gearwrench ratchet will help with the socket slop that we've been looking at over the last couple of parts. Oh, by the way, if you haven't seen parts 1 and 2, or the video that I recorded comparing the Gearwrench and the Icon ratchets, check those out. But yeah, I wanted to test the claims that using a certain socket with a certain ratchet would help with the socket slop. So let's see what we find. I'm going to start with the Gearwrench first, and these are all 3/8" anvils, by the way. So the socket that I originally tested this off with was a Husky. Now, when you tap this on, you can push it in all the way and it'll fully seat. But when you pull it out to where the retention ball sits in the little grooves in there, there is that space here. And then you can also wiggle the socket around. Now that can cause problems, I guess, for some people. I've never really noticed it to be a problem. I usually just fully seat my sockets when I go to work, and there's definitely not as much slop when you do that, but I think some people have an issue with this. But if you use a Gearwrench socket, let's see how this works. So it fully seats. It actually doesn't fully seat, but it doesn't seat as far down as this one does, I don't think. But it seems like there's still a bit of slop on there. Now, this is pretty much a non-issue for most people that I've been seeing in the comments, but I just wanted to test this out and see what's going on here. Okay, so the slop on the Husky, and then the slop on the Gearwrench socket. I don't see much of a difference here. Okay, let's try and see what the Icon socket looks like on the Gearwrench. Looks to be much more space in between here now. And you can't get it to fully seat at all with this Icon socket. Yeah, there's a lot more space in there, and the slop seems to be worse. We'll look at the Gearwrench again. See, look at the difference there. Icon. Gearwrench socket. So that's not too bad. All right. Now we'll take a look at the Icon. When you're looking at the Husky, it fully seats, but when you pull it out, a lot less socket slop there. A lot less socket slop, for sure, than the Gearwrench. There's a lot less space here. Now, let's look at the Icon socket with the Icon ratchet here. Let's see what this looks like. Yeah, that's pretty close. There's not much space there. And it doesn't really pop back out and leave a bunch of space in between at all, like the Gearwrench. Okay, and let's try the Capri. It seems to be about the same. As the Husky, now there's a little bit of slop with that one. A little bit of slop there. But as far as where it seats, that's not too much space there. One thing I will say, it's a lot harder to get sockets off of the Icon. This detent ball does a really good job at holding the sockets in place. I would say better than Gearwrench does. Oh, and by the way, this one is a Capri socket, and it does pop out to this further, to be further out. And then with the Gearwrench socket, it doesn't do that really. Okay, Capri. When I tested the Capri with the Husky socket, there isn't much space here to begin with. A little bit of slop going back and forth. Okay, so Capri with Capri, that's looking pretty good, and there is less slop here than with the Husky socket. Now let's try the Capri with the Icon. Not a whole lot of slop at all here. Really not a lot at all, and it doesn't pull out to lock into a different position at all. It's locked into place right there, and that's looking pretty good. So Gearwrench socket with the Capri ratchet. Little bit more slop there. So if you're going to go with the Capri ratchet and you're looking for sockets and you didn't want to go with the Capri socket, you could definitely go Icon, and that's pretty good. Capri with Capri. Honestly, I think Capri with the Icon has less socket slop than the Capri socket. Interesting. Okay. And last but not least, the Koken. With the Husky, pretty close to the Capri. Not much space here. Not too bad on the socket slot. If you go Capri, even less slop than with the Husky socket. Pretty good. Gearwrench. Still looking good on the space there. There's a little bit more slop here. And Icon, that's the least amount of socket slop there. As far as socket slop goes, I gotta say, Gearwrench isn't gonna be the top pick for me, but this doesn't make me like my Gearwrench ratchet any less, to be honest. I've just been having fun taking a look at this. I never thought to really look this closely at this before, so I figured why not. I do see what people are saying about an Icon ratchet with an Icon socket. That is a pretty low amount of socket slop there, especially compared to the Gearwrench. Even with the Gearwrench socket, you look at them both side by side. This is the Icon, this is the Gearwrench. We got minimal socket slop here, and that's a lot. You know, there's already slop in the head here, so you got, I'm trying to account for that and try not to move the head as much when I'm looking at the socket slop. But I mean, the space here versus the space here, first of all, that's a huge difference. And then you've got this slop that you don't have, at least not as much, on the Icon. So if you're looking at this, if this is something you care about, then I would go Icon. But if it's not really something you care about, there's other things to look at. There's, back drag and a lot of other factors. I do think I might want to make a video testing out back drag differences pretty soon. If y'all have any ideas of how to test the back drag, let me know. I've seen a couple of different ideas that I'm toying with, but I'll figure something out, and let me know if y'all are interested in seeing a video like that. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I will see you soon. Stay happy, healthy, and wealthy.